Hello and welcome to this video in REBA's On Demand series focusing on innovation. I'm Maggie Williams, Content Director for REBA, and today we're going to be talking about innovation in financial wellbeing. COVID-19 has cast financial wellbeing in a whole new light. Some employees will have been able to reduce their outgoings and save more, but others will have seen damage to their personal savings which will take years to repair. Financial wellbeing cannot now just be about saving into a pension. So today we're going to explore some innovative approaches to financial resilience, how to encourage employees to build good financial habits for the long term, and find new ways to engage individuals with their savings. So I'm joined today by Ben Pollard, founder and CEO of Cushon, Lindsey Cooper, Reward and Benefits Manager at Pinsent Masons, and Michaela O'Reilly, Head of Reward and HR Analytics at Ipsos MORI. So Ben, how has the pandemic changed the role of financial wellbeing for employees and employers? How can employers meet what would have become very disparate needs within their workforce?
Hi Maggie, and thank you very much for the introduction. Delighted to be here with you, if not physically, but get the idea. So how has, I think it's been, obviously a very difficult and challenging time for an awful lot of people. It's had a different impact on different people is the reality. And some people have obviously been furloughed or even have lost their jobs and seen a sort of fall in their income. Others have actually sort of increased their savings levels through lower outgoings. And I saw something in the press just over the weekend about how there's been a significant increase in the sort of savings ratio in the UK overall over the pandemic period. It was quite an interesting sort of counterintuitive statistic. And I think that kind of hooks in the way that we sort of look at the world. As you said, pensions are a fantastic sort of foundation for saving in the workplace and have been for many years. But there is this increasing realization that different people have different priorities and different needs. And I think, in a sense, the biggest thing that employers can do to sort of support and respond in this situation is just to listen to staff, listen to those different needs of different people, and sort of hear that and recognise that there are, there's more to life than just saving through a pension.
So now I'd like to hear from some employers about how the pandemic has changed their approach to financial wellbeing.
Well, I think we used to have a very traditional based type of education, classroom learning, I suppose, for want of a better statement. So I think with COVID, everybody had to change. We all changed actually the way we do things. Everything had to be put online. And this made us kind of think a wee bit more outside of the box of the type of education that we provide. Classroom learning, I still think, is one of the best ways to learn. There's no doubt about that, because you can ask questions, and people in the room usually have the same questions. You find that people normally want to know the same things. When it's online, it's a wee bit more hidden. But what we felt was that we could meet all the rest of our regional offices through and reach out to them through everything being online. So that is good, because that was one of the things that we were going to work on last year before COVID kicked off, was have our providers go to the regional offices to provide education. But that would only be for one day, maybe 3 topics. Whereas now we can provide all our topics online, and the registrations have obviously increased threefold. Whether the learning has, that's another thing. But you'd get 20 per, I suppose, classroom type education, where we certainly get over 30 per session now, and some cases 70. We've had people depending on especially pension. Our people are really engaged in their pension. So yeah, it has changed, and we also seen the real need for shorter term savings products. So we introduced workplace ISAs and workplace general savings accounts, because pension is all well and good, but if people need to access their emergency fund, which is now what people need, what people were asking for, and we needed to be able to provide that easily for people, and we pay that, and we provide it through payroll, which is by far the easiest way to save. I think you don't see the money, and you don't feel it coming out of your pocket as such. So that's where we're kind of going. I suppose when we all get back into the office, and we'll have a bit more of a blended approach. So we still will have the education type, in-house learning, but we are aware that the online learning is very good as well. So we'll blend the two of them together.
I think over the pandemic, our approach to financial wellbeing has changed quite significantly. I think originally we were looking at it as the financial wellbeing as an add-on to existing benefits and our existing wellbeing, but I think the pandemic has really brought it to light and heightened the importance of it. That it's not just nice to have; it's an integral part of the health and wellbeing strategy as a whole. So we were already doing some financial wellbeing innovations and provisions. For example, our low preferential rate loan service. We also had a mortgage advice service as well, and a financial wellbeing hub. But what we felt was sometimes getting lost amongst other benefits. So as part of the pandemic, we brought that all together and advertised that on our health and wellbeing hub to bring it to light and make it apparent that it's available for all. I think sometimes there can be a bit of a stigma around financial wellbeing, it being linked to an employer. So we've tried to remove that barrier for people to getting help and financial education by putting on a hub with all of our health and wellbeing provisions. So it's easily accessible to all, and they don't necessarily have to go through HR or line managers if they're having a problem or need education or advice. They know exactly where to go. So I think, COVID-19 has probably pushed things along a lot further. It was already something we were looking at, but just making it more heightened and brought it more to life, really.
Ben, coming back to you, improving financial resilience is about more than just savings products. It's also about being able to see the bigger picture of our money and use that as the basis for creating good future habits. What innovative ways are there to help individuals achieve that?
Fascinating question. What sorts of innovations are there in the workplace savings market? And I think there's a few, ranging from the sort of the more obvious ones through to some that are a bit more subtle but increasingly important. I think some of the more obvious ones are really just about making it easier and simpler for people. One of the biggest sort of most dominant forces really in what sort of encourages people to save and create healthy savings habits, or means that they don't, is just simply how easy you make it. So simple things like enabling people to save directly through their pay into a range of different savings products that might be there to help them get on the housing ladder, or help create some savings to help their children through university or that sort of thing. Making that really easy and simple through payroll deduction is really helpful. As is, again, simple things like making it available through an easy to use mobile app. It's not rocket science in this day and age. Most stuff happens through mobile apps. But just having a nice, easy, simple to use mobile app is really important. I think I would count it in that sort of innovation kind of category, even though it's sort of pretty much a kind of an expectation these days, I think. I think one of the other things sort of getting a little bit more subtle, but I think quite important as well. We at Cushon have created this sort of linkage between climate change as an issue that a lot of people care an awful lot about, and savings habits, and in particular people's pensions, and the fact that these two issues are connected creates a really powerful sort of narrative and story for people, in that actually by saving more and doing more good things with their money, they can have an impact on an issue that they really care about. And I think that sort of thing is really, really important as well, taking savings from being just a pure sort of financial kind of quantitative almost decision, to giving it stories and meaning, and connecting it with issues that people really care about. And that's something that we're really excited about actually over the right at the moment, and some of our sort of really interesting things that are happening in our mobile app are sort of talking to that kind of topic.
Thanks very much, Ben. I'd now like to pass that over to some of our employers for some thoughts from them. What do you think are some of the biggest financial challenges your employees are facing, and how are you approaching those?
So I think there's quite a few different areas really. For example, we're a law firm, so we have graduates coming into the firm who have considerable student debt, for example. Then we have newly promoted partners who are going from a salaried staff member to more or less a self-employed partner. So they have very different financial implications because of the different situations. Then we also have newly business operations roles or higher earners, people approaching retirement. So what we're doing at the moment, we're doing a communication plan around different webinars and different financial education tools, but trying to link it to particular moments in time. For example, when we have our partner promotions, we're looking at doing webinars around the partner promotion program and moving from salaried to newly promoted self-employed partner. And then we're looking at the newly qualified solicitors who have potentially significant student debts. So we're doing webinars around financial investment around that as well.
So the biggest financial challenges our employees are seeing at the minute is probably the effect of joint income coming into, disposable income coming into the households. That could be either through furlough or, unfortunately, people losing their jobs, as we see in the news all the time. I think being able to provide, a savings vehicle through payroll really helps, because anybody who has additional disposable income from savings, maybe from not traveling into work anymore or buying lunch and Pret, this is giving employees the opportunity to be able to save through payroll, and also to be able to access money like an emergency fund as quickly as possible if it's needed.
So I think one of the biggest challenges in financial well-being is to get people more engaged with their finances in the first place, and in particular with pensions. It may just feel like there's no particular hook in employees' busy lives. Is there anything that employers themselves can do about that?
I think the short answer is yes. To connect in with what I was talking about a second ago, there's the sort of the obvious things like making it simple and easy and accessible, and delivering it through a fantastic user experience and mobile app and all of that sort of stuff, which is something that we're very, very keen on at Cushon and put a lot of time and energy into. To expand on what I was talking about before, I think the linkage between pensions and climate change is becoming increasingly apparent, and more people are talking about it. There's a fantastic campaign running at the moment that was founded by Richard Curtis, the person who founded Comic Relief and wrote Blackadder and that sort of thing, trying to raise awareness all about this particular issue. And Cushon has been quite involved in that. And one of the real sort of eye-opening moments for us was when we worked out through some fairly simple calculations how much CO2 emissions the average pension pot here in the UK actually helps finance. And the answer is mind-blowing. So if you take the total emissions of FTSE 100 companies, you divide by the total value of FTSE 100 companies, you work out a sort of level of emissions per £1,000 invested in the FTSE. You then multiply that by the average size of a UK pension pot, then you come up with around 23 tonnes of CO2 per pension pot on average in the UK. And 23 tonnes of CO2, I don't know about you, but I find it a bit difficult to think in terms of tons of CO2. But if you translate that into equivalents, that's equivalent to about 9 family cars worth of CO2 emissions. 9 family cars. It's crazy, right? How good would you feel about yourself if you went from being a 2-car family to a 1-car family? So you feel pretty good. But in the meantime, your pension is sitting there financing an average of 9 cars worth. It's also equivalent to about 1,000 of those propane gas cylinders that are used to power the sort of gas patio heaters that there was all the fuss about 4 or 5 years ago. Imagine taking 1,000 of those, firing them all up in your back garden and just letting them burn. That'd be a lot of CO2 emissions, but that's about equivalent to what the average UK pension pot finances in any given year. And so I think raising awareness of those sorts of issues and creating the connection. And actually people's pensions can be incredibly powerful tools in terms of helping tackle climate change as an issue that so many people care so much about. It really is, very difficult these days to find somebody who doesn't acknowledge that it's an issue and would buy into doing something to help. People put a huge amount of effort into attempting to live more sustainable lives. We sort of switch our energy suppliers, we recycle, we fit double glazing, we get our houses insulated and so on. And in the meantime, doing something through your pension, to be honest, relatively lower effort overall to sort of go with a climate aware pension product versus some of the other lifestyle changes, can have a huge impact. And we think that's actually one of the most powerful sort of forces. It's we're a fintech. We like all our app. We like our technology. We love all that stuff. That's just sort of taken as read, I think, in Cushon land. But the thing we're really, really excited about is this connection and this sort of ability for people to have a meaningful impact on an issue that is really, really important to the world. And at the same time, address this sort of perpetual challenge in financial services and pensions around engagement and people not being particularly interested in their retirement savings. I think this connection is a really powerful, really powerful thing.
So thanks, Ben. That's really interesting, and it does show how younger investors might have a different take on their savings strategy. So Michaela, have you noticed any generational differences in your staff's attitudes towards financial well-being?
Yeah, Maggie, what I find is there is generational differences. There definitely is. You have a generation of savers and you have a generation of spenders. I fall under the spenders category, unfortunately, or used to very much so. I find that the biggest surprise, I suppose, in the last 5 years that I've seen since working in Ipsos MORI is that our graduates are very clued in. They are very clued into their pension investments. Where is it investment? Where is it invested? Is it do we have any ethical funds? That's and these young ones know this. This is not something I left school with knowledge of, so I was one of those typical 40-year-olds, started panicking about my pension and then start the hardcore saving now. But I find that, yes, there are generational gaps depending on what you learned, I suppose, in school and university leaving and what your parents probably taught you as well. I think what we've done is that we provided lots of different benefits for lots of different saving attitudes, because some people have high risk, some people are low risk. Instead of going out there and saying to people, you need to have an ISA, we have provided workplace ISAs that instead of them self-invested, they can invest within a fund that is already managed by someone else. I think that really helps as well, because people understand risk, I suppose, to a point. They low risk, medium risk and high risk. But if you ask somebody to self-invest, it's quite scary, because which of the 4,000 funds on the stock exchange should I be investing in? So we've started to make things a lot easier with the benefits that we are providing. The workplace savings are all kind of managed funds that people can go into. They can self-invest if they want to, but they have that choice. So I think we're providing for all different types of educational and financial well-being needs at the minute.
Thanks, Michaela. Now, I wanted to end this discussion by going back to Lindsey. With an eye to the future, what innovations would you like to see in the financial wellbeing space, and how might they benefit your employees?
I know that in terms of innovation around financial wellbeing, I know there is a lot of firms out there that are doing communications that are tailored around particular areas, but I do think there needs to be more innovation in terms of targeting particular people and particular pockets of people, because it's such a broad area. It's if you have just an overview of particular issues, people might not engage with it. So if it's making it applicable to that particular person in their particular circumstance, I think that would get people a lot more engaged with financial wellbeing and financial education. So trying to drill down into, I guess, financial risk areas for that particular individual, it would be really key to getting people to engage with financial education.
I'd really like to thank Ben Pollard, founder and CEO of Cushon, Lindsey Cooper, Reward and Benefits Manager at Pinsent Masons, and Michaela O'Reilly, Head of Reward and HR Analytics at Ipsos MORI, for their fantastic thoughts today. Many thanks indeed to you all.